Hi there. So, this month I was gone from my channel for about 10 days, and I quickly wanted to report on what was happening and what kind of lessons I learned during this period of my life when I was at the hospital for a few days after having had surgery. So, the story started when I started getting a lot of pain in my stomach, and I assumed it was probably period pain or something that would go away after a short period of time or after I'd taken a painkiller. But the pain was not going away. So I started recognizing that something was actually going horribly wrong. And so I went to the hospital 2 times. I called an ambulance, although they didn't really take me to the hospital. And then in the end, I ended up taking another ambulance because the pain was still not going away. I couldn't sleep for multiple days. I couldn't eat for multiple days. I was puking everything out every day. It was all a horrible experience. And I ended up going to the hospital finally to actually get hospitalized and to get my surgery. And of course, recover after the surgery before I could finally go home. And I was really feeling the pain throughout this whole experience. Every day was painful, but I'm not here to talk about the pain. I'm here to talk about how that experience gave me so much perspective on so many things, but specifically on compassion and on living life more compassionately. So before I go into the specifics of what happened in the hospital, what I learned, and what I walked out of after I was discharged from the hospital, I'm going to talk about a specific issue I've always had that connects to this. And if anybody can relate, if you can relate, then drop me a comment talking about your experience with this because I'd love to hear about it. So, ever since I was a young girl, I always had a very, very, very difficult time connecting to other people's pain, okay? Or just connecting to people in general. I've always been very in my head, very disconnected from things, from how the people would feel. I wasn't really attuned to other people and their emotions and their pain and their struggles. And I, quite frankly, never learned how to be compassionate. I was more on the logical side, although as a person I'm very sensitive. So I grew up not really being the nicest person. I probably wasn't a bad person, but I wasn't really that person that you would think, oh, she really cares about me. She's so kind. She's helping everybody around her. She's so compassionate. You can tell that she feels my pain. Nobody would ever describe me as that kind of person, okay? And as I grew older, I wasn't really paying attention to that, but at some point, it became a big thing in my life, and some people started to point it out how I was really don't remember the exact words that some people use to describe me, but and this is actually what led me down the path of self improvement. It was after I told myself I'm fucking done with this shit. I'm fucking done with getting this very negative feedback from people about me being this quote unquote bad person, because I was probably a bit emotionally all over the place in multiple ways. I told myself, this is it, I'm changing. But that's how my journey to self-development started, from a very negative place. And similarly, when it comes to compassion, whenever I see myself not being compassionate, or whenever I don't really feel that connected to someone's pain, I start to judge myself very negatively. And whenever I see someone else who's very kind, very compassionate, like who naturally seems to be so genuinely interested in helping other people, I look at the person and I I feel like I'm not as worthy of a human being as they are. And that's been a very big theme in my life, a very big struggle. But I've always tried to be more attuned to other people using logic. Instead of being more in my body, I've been trying to think, okay, if I can't actually feel, or I do feel how other people feel, but it's not very intense. I don't feel the urge to do something to really help, to really give a helping hand to the person. Even if I have that intention in my mind, because I can tell something is up with this person, I want to do something, but I don't know what to do, or the feeling is not as intense. So I say to myself that I'm not going to do anything, but we're going to touch on that in a second. So hold on to that in your mind. Always struggled with being compassionate. Let's just leave it at that, okay? And while I was at the hospital, while I was at a word, the first word, because I was in two different words, I was taking from one word to another. There were multiple people, women, of course, that were all very nice, very compassionate, very kind, very concerned of each other's well-being. I didn't really feel the inferiority complex kick in, but what I did feel was admiration. I felt admiration for those women, you know, how they seem to genuinely care so much about how other people in the world were doing, right? For example, one woman, she was literally a bliss to be around. She would make everybody laugh. She would be so jokey. So she would always ask other people like how they're feeling. And whenever she would pick up that somebody around her wasn't feeling great, if a person, for example, was crying or something like that, because every person in the room was going through their own stuff. So um, even I was crying at some point because I couldn't sleep for multiple days and I was going insane. But she was just so amazing to be around. She even gave me a kiss on the head for whatever reason. She really felt like kind of like my grandma or like my auntie or something like that. She was just a very great person. She seemed to really truly care about people that she didn't even really know. So whilst all that was happening, as I was observing other people and how they behaved around other people, I was thinking about the fact that my pain, the fact that I was in so much pain, was making it difficult for me to feel attuned to other people's pain. And that made me reflect on the fact that, as a sensitive person that I've always been, if you know the term highly sensitive person, I easily fall under this category. I feel things very intensely, very negatively. So I'm actually much more likely to pick up on people's negative feelings, but I usually internalize those negative feelings and I assume that they're directed perhaps towards me, and so I feel more defensive rather than feel the urge to really help that person or show up for them. I'm just a very sensitive person. Let's just leave it at that. And I think when you are a very sensitive person, or when you generally feel negative emotions very, very strongly, what happens is everything becomes more about your survival and your pain. So you kind of build a wall around you and you block everyone else out, right? So, as I said, you don't feel other people's pain as intensely because you're just thinking about your pain, or you aren't as present to help them out with their problems and things like that. Because you're always thinking about your problems. If you're always thinking about your own problems, other people's problems start to not really matter, right? If I have this very intense pain in my stomach, or if I've just broken my leg, I'm just thinking about my leg and how horrible I feel. That's what I'm going to start thinking about. So if you're very sensitive, similarly to how you would feel if you were in a lot of pain in a particular moment because of a physical injury or anything like that, just because you're feeling that, you won't be able to feel other people's pain or be as helpful to other people naturally. This doesn't imply that you're a bad person. This doesn't imply that you don't care. This doesn't imply that you don't have compassion in your heart. Okay? It doesn't imply any of those things. And that's one thing I've come to realize with myself. I came to realize that a long time ago, but I still feel the same judgment come up where if I'm not being compassionate enough, if I don't show up as someone would want me to show up with emotion, because that's what really matters. People don't want to be told what to do if they're in pain, which is what I'm more likely to do. What they want is somebody to be there for them. You know, they just want a listening ear. They want a shoulder to cry on. That's what they want. That's what people want when they're emotional, especially women. So that's impacted my female friendships a lot because I can't show up with my emotion as well. But I still know there is still so much care in my heart, and the being so attuned to my own pain and to my own feelings, my own negative feelings, makes it difficult to connect to other people. And that brings me to my second point. When I do feel someone's pain, and if you yourself feel other people's pain, but you don't know what to do about it, you don't know how to comfort the other person, you don't know what to say, you don't know what to do to lift up their spirits when you find that they're sad, that they're feeling anxious. When you find yourself in that kind of position, what you need to do is act out on the intention, okay? Let me give you an example. When I was taken to the second ward, there was a very old lady there, and that old lady, you could tell she was not feeling good, okay? You could tell she was very sad. She was irritated by a lot of different things around her, like noises from like machines and things like that. She couldn't sleep. She was just struggling, and at some point she was even actually voicing the fact that she wasn't happy. In fact, she was voicing the fact that she wanted to die by specifically saying, I want to go. Not home, but go up there. That's what she was saying afterwards. And I could tell from the start she wasn't feeling great. And I was thinking that I was looking at her and I was feeling this urge to do something for her. But then I was thinking, I would think to myself, should I really act out on this intention that I have to do something, to be present for this person? It's because it's not something I'm used to. And if you're not used to something, you're gonna have to put yourself in an uncomfortable position to take the action, to act differently than how you would normally act. And it will put you out of your comfort zone, and it's going to be very difficult. So I didn't know what to do, and for a day I wasn't really doing anything. Although I wanted to potentially do something, I wasn't really taking any action. I wasn't doing anything. And then the day afterwards, I just thought I would finally actually start exchanging some words instead of exchanging just smiles, and asking to see if she needed anything, if she needed help with certain things. Like she was just struggling to open like a bag of sugar to out of her teeth, things like that. Simple things like that. I didn't feel it in me to have a full-blown conversation about the pain she was going through. But I still had the intention to do something, to comfort her in some way, to have at least some small talk. to just do something to make her feel better, because she also didn't have anybody visiting her, so she didn't have much contact with other people. So what matters in this kind of cases, all right, is just you showing up. Other people are going to pick up on the energy that you embody. If I embody the energy, if I naturally feel pulled to help someone, even if I'm not doing something revolutionary to help them, even if I'm not taking an action that a very natural, compassionate person would do without really thinking about it, would just be a natural response for them. Just because I'm at that place doesn't mean I'm not going to act on whatever I feel, and that I'm not going to do whatever I can do with what I have, with who I am. And the person in front of me that is in pain, that is struggling, if I'm showing up for them, they're going to care about that. They're not going to care as much about the specifics. They're not going to remember that you told them the specific thing. I mean, things you say do matter, and your words have so much power, and people remember the great things that you've told them in the past. But they're mainly going to care and to remember who showed up for them. And at the end, when I was about to leave the hospital, she looked at me like she didn't want me to really go, and just seemed very grateful for whatever reason, although I hadn't really done that much. But I did what I could do. I did what I felt like I needed to do. That's what made me arrive to the conclusion that it doesn't matter how specifically you show up if you don't know how to show up. You don't have the tools, you didn't have any examples of people, say you didn't have a very compassionate parent that showed up for you in moments of pain to comfort you, right? Maybe that's what I didn't have, and maybe that's what makes it difficult for me to do this, to show up for a person that way. Maybe that's what it is. But just act. Just do the nice act. Just do whatever comes to your mind. Don't overthink it. The person doesn't care, okay? What they will care about is whether you showed up. All right? So, a conclusion from this experience is, if you're not naturally that attuned to other people, maybe it's because you're so attuned to your own pain, maybe because you really struggle, maybe because you are in a painful period of your life, maybe because you just generally have certain problems that prevent you from connecting to other people or feeling their pain and things like that. None of these things imply you aren't a good person. If that's your intention, that's what you want to do, if you want to grow into a more compassionate person, it will be a process that you'll have to go through. And if you're even thinking about doing that, you're a wonderful fucking person. And there's that. And then, as you're trying to be more compassionate, to show up for people better, don't overthink it. Just do the kind act, do the kind deed. Just like with any other skill, you're going to hone it. And it's going to get easier with time. And you're still worthy and amazing. And even if you have the intention of doing anything, you're already miles ahead of other people that aren't really doing anything. And they are actually very attuned to their pain, but they never consciously try to be anything else. They just decide from the start, I am this person, therefore I can't act in this way. It's not natural for me. I struggle with it. I wasn't given the tools as a child to do this properly. Whatever it is, whatever the limiting belief there is, fuck that, okay? That was it in my long rant on compassion, but it's a very important topic to me. So yeah, that's it. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and do share your experience in the comments if you could relate to any of this, because I don't know, I've never had anyone tell me they've been this kind of person or have this emotional experiences and specific struggles that I just described. So that'd be cool if you dropped a comment with your own story and perspective, and I'll see you in my next video.